I'm Polly Warren and welcome to the Positive Perimenopause podcast. This is the place for some positive inspiration to help you through the rollercoaster ride of perimenopause. I truly believe that with the right support, knowledge and wellness tools, you can feel your best yet. Because I'm learning this life phase can be a truly exciting and often pivotal time of life. With every episode, my mission is to support and empower you to own your menopause, because it's time to start taking care of the most important person, and yes, that's you. So thank you for being here and sharing your time with me. Now let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. I hope you have had a good week. Now, before I introduce this week's guest, I wanted to tell you a bit about a client I've started working with 2 weeks ago. Because this week she told me that she just can't believe how she'd been putting off doing something to help her feel better for about 2 years, which is a long time. Because she told me that this week she just can't believe how much more energy she has. Because for about 2 years, she says she's just been seriously lacking in energy. She totally lost her mojo for life, amongst other things. But in just 2 weeks of working together, she is so pleased, as am I, because she has more energy that she's had in ages. She feels more optimistic. She feels stronger in herself. She's a lot less lethargic. She's sleeping better. And she did also say that it's the first time in ages that she just hasn't felt the need to pour herself a glass of wine in the evenings or eat chocolate. And that is not something I've told her to do. That's just a nice side effect of the things that she's adding into her day and her diet and her lifestyle. So I'm so proud of her, as she is of herself. And I'm telling you this because it's such a good example of how so many of us put off investing in ourselves because we don't think we're worth it, yet we're really very willing to put up with feeling just not right and not having the energy. But that's crazy, because what is more important than you and your health? Anyway, because Christmas is coming, I hope you don't mind me mentioning Christmas this early. It's a time of presents. And so I'm offering you lovely podcast listeners a discount of my Peri Power Hour and a Half session. Now, the Peri Power and a Half session, I'm sorry, it's not the best name. I will think of a better name, but it's a 90-minute session, which you can pre-book now for January. Now, these 90-minute sessions are designed to give you solutions on how to move forward with your perimenopause, with your health and wellness. And I just know how beneficial these sessions are, because I see women leave feeling a huge sense of relief because they become super clear on what actions to take. And these are really beneficial because so many of you, and I know this because you tell me, might have tried the doctor before and to try and get answers you're looking for, but you're not finding you're getting those answers because it's hard in a 10-minute appointment, isn't it? And quite often, unfortunately, some doctors these days still aren't specialised in menopause. Or you might already be on HRT, but it's not working for you in the way you'd hoped. Or perhaps you just want to explore how to manage your menopause naturally. So these sessions really are a really great place to get some of those answers. So before the session, what happens is you'll complete an assessment form, which means that we're both really super clear on what's going on at the start of the session. The sessions are on Zoom, and you'll have the time and the space to discuss what's going on with you. And together with my menopause practitioner training and my coaching expertise, we will have a clear action plan for you to take away with by the end of the session. So you can pre-book now for January, because what better way to start 2023 knowing exactly what you can do to feel blimmin' amazing. This could be a really fantastic present for yourself or from somebody to you. So I'm offering £25 off the £150 price. If you're interested, all you need to do is send me an email to info@pollywarren.com with the title £25 off, and I will be in touch with you. So I'm just offering a limited amount of spaces for this, so get in there quickly if you want to take me up on this offer. Okay, let's get on to this week's guest. Now, I am so excited to tell you about this week's guest because this week's guest, Rachel Kili, is not only an incredible physiotherapist, she's also my cousin. So it's so nice to have her on the podcast, and it was just really lovely to catch up and see her. Rachel has been a physiotherapist for 33 years, and through her many hours of working with people and having done a master's degree at Loughborough University, she's developed a unique concept called Simply Move, which is based on human evolution. Basically, it's on the way our ancestors used to move. Rachel's approach is all about finding a way that suits your body to stay strong, flexible, and free from niggles, aches, and pains, which so many of us seem to pick up as we go through life. I absolutely loved chatting to Rachel, whose passion shines through because she knows firsthand how powerful this work is, particularly through perimenopause and menopause. So without further ado, please welcome the wonderful Rachel Kili. So Rachel, it's very exciting today to have you on the podcast because not only are you a fantastically experienced physiotherapist, you're also my cousin, which is very exciting. So to have you here with me via Zoom is a very new and quite surreal experience. So thank you for joining me today.
Well, thank you for asking me, Polly. It's a joy.
It is a joy to see you in a different capacity than a big family lunch. So yeah, it's really nice. So Rachel, I think to start with, I would absolutely love you to tell us a little bit about your own personal experience of what's led you to do the work that you do today. Because I know that you're a physio, but actually you do a lot more than just be a physio, and particularly helping people and particularly women in midlife. So it'd be great to hear a little bit of the background that's led you up to this point today.
Lovely question, Polly. My journey began very much when I was significantly younger. It's so easy to think, problems in later life, that's how you change tack. But in fact, my body in my 20s, which is 30 odd years ago, I found that when I was going to aerobic classes and I was doing all sorts of activities, I was watching other people and I was thinking, well, my body doesn't do that. If I was marching on the spot, for example, or running up a hill, the alignment of my legs and my arms was not the same as other people. And it really annoyed me. So I was thinking, what I need is to be stronger. I need to be more flexible. So I did those things because that's what the research told you to do. And, that was what my colleagues and my peers were doing. So I did it. But I was finding that the more I was challenging my body, I was picking up injury after injury. I was hurting. I was sore. And I was in my 20s. And I was thinking, my goodness, this is surely not the way I should be. And so I began to ask myself why, what's going on. So I looked into the research about this whole no pain, no gain and challenging your body and increasing load. And I discovered that a lot of the research is based on military male personnel. And it was exactly that, was to increase load, increase pace, add more and more demands. And that's fine if you have a body that responds to that stimulus. But when you have a body like mine that, in fact, isn't moving efficiently, and then you load it, you actually create more problems than you resolve. So I thought, I'm going to take a different tack. I cannot continue like this. So through various different means, but I ended up doing a master's degree at Loughborough University in sports science because I wanted to understand movement and exercise from a scientific perspective. And my dissertation was called Physical Activity Compliance and Coronary Heart Disease. Very sexy title, as dissertations are, or were anyway. And when I was looking at it, I was thinking, why aren't these people exercising? We know that being fitter, being stronger directly impacts the health of our hearts. So I was thinking, why aren't these people doing it then? Why is it so hard when we know cause and effect? This is how you can improve your overall health. And when I was talking to people, they didn't want the idea of having to exercise. They wanted to live. And I was thinking, well, this is all very strange. In my physiotherapy training, I was told that if you exercise, you will be stronger and fitter, and you just have to do it, and it'll be marvelous. And so I started to look at human evolution, because I was thinking, is it that makes us doing the right thing to our body such an obstacle? What is it that stops us? And when I was looking at the way they moved was part of life. It was how they were surviving. They weren't thinking, oh, time to do some squats, time to stretch out because I'm feeling a bit tight. They were moving in a way that was very three-dimensional, reaching up, reaching back, dragging things, squatting down, for them to gather supplies, forage for food, hunt, whatever it was. They didn't have machinery like we do today. And I was thinking, wow, this is absolutely fascinating. And then I was making that comparison with athletes. And I was thinking, well, athletes are incredibly agile. And are there similarities between our ancestors and our evolutionary journey and top-class athletes, top-class dancers? And the similarities were their efficiency of movement. So our ancestors had to be efficient because fuel supplies were limited. They didn't go to the shop to get, a snack when they're hungry. They had to hunt for it or gather, forage, whatever it was. And so they weren't going to waste energy by doing exercise as such. They had to move efficiently. And that's exactly what our top-class athletes and dancers and any professional, athlete does. And they have to be powerful, but with grace and control and flow. So they both have, our athletes and our ancestors, they were looking, even if it was unconsciously, how their whole body was interconnecting and how their whole body flowed. And we have exactly the same physiology as our athletes, even though you and I may not be.
Yeah.
I don't want to put you down, Polly, but
no, it's all right.
I sense you're not.
I'm not a top athlete. It's all right. I can take that.
But you and I both have the same physiology. So I began to apply this idea of how we can move to my patients. And I was trying to get people to see that they could move with their body as opposed to do exercise to their body, which is what I had been doing in my 20s, which wasn't working because I wasn't thinking about my whole body. I wasn't thinking about the alignment and the breath that I was taking in and exhaling. I was just doing what I thought was right to increase my heart rate, feel my muscles work, and stretch out my body. So as I was helping my clients to overcome pain and injury, that was the idea. I was trying to get people to see that to do these movements so that they're sustainable and part of their life, they had to relate back to how evolution has got us to where we are today. And so Simply Move, my Simply Move concept, which is the work you mentioned at the beginning, that's how it was born. So Simply Move it bridges the gap between how we are designed to thrive through movement to today's world, where essentially we are living our lives centered around sitting, centered around devices. I mean, we have never been so busy not moving in our entire evolutionary journey. And even our world, the infrastructure in particularly Western society is that of not moving. Everything is rigged up for us to move as little as possible. And yet that is the one thing that we are designed to do. We're designed to move towards food and away from danger. as efficiently as we possibly can.
Yeah.
But in fact, movement's discouraged. Even at school, children are told, stop moving, stop fidgeting.
Yes.
In a queue, you would never, unless you're me, reach your arms up, reach your arms back. That just wouldn't happen. Meetings, how odd would you look if you said, I'm going to stand up? Or even in a plane, people who have to go on long hauls and have problems sitting, they'll say, I'm just going to look such a lemon standing up, moving. And it begs the question, how did we get to this point in our future human evolution? How did that happen? And so when we aren't moving, we lose confidence in what our body is designed to do in the first place. We think when we stand up, we're standing straight, but in fact, we're not. And most of our lives, we are forwards and down. Even in standing, everything is bringing us down. And when we're sitting, we tend to slouch over a desk, which affects your neck. But our ancestors would have been reaching up, reaching back. They too would have been reaching forwards and down. But you didn't have anything. Now we don't have anything to counter that. So not only is movement discouraged, the movement that we do is very repetitive and very unhelpful because we're not doing anything to unravel it and open out our bodies.
It's just mad, isn't it, that we have got to this point. I'm thinking about my own exercise. I think I'm relatively fit and healthy. I do a variety of different types of exercise. So I do strength training, I do yoga, I've started running again. But I still have a huge number of niggles. So I still have like knees and lower back. And I know that it's probably because I'm still probably sitting or just not moving my body in the way that it's meant to do, just because of modern life. So what you're doing is really, I suppose, just saying to everybody, you've really got to look, even if you are exercising, what you think is a good dose of exercise, it's looking at actually what are you doing in the bits in between.
Bits in between. That is a lovely phrase. Yes, because often I will hear people say, I just don't have time. I just don't have time to exercise. And I think, I'm sure, that is very true if you are working in an environment where your time to yourself is restricted. That is a reality. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about a tick box exercise of, right, I've done that stretch, that strengthening activity, so many squats. What I'm talking about is how you connect with your body with every step you take. When you stand up from sitting, standing up to your full height, but knowing what that actually looks like, feels like, and your abilities to sustain it. And that's what I teach people. It's not about doing things as an afterthought. Oh, I'll do that later. I'll invest in my body later. And you think, no, you could do it right now. You could sit and, anyone listening to the podcast now, put your arms above your head, stretch up, take a breath in, drop your shoulders. Lovely, Polly. And then when you bring your arms down, don't let your body follow. Keep that lovely, elegant poise, thinking in your mind's eye about a dancer, how you would see a ballerina on stage, and just think of yourself in that body. Even if we would never look like that, using visualization is an incredibly powerful tool. And when you walk to your printer or you walk to a kitchen to put the kettle on, you could make every step count and think about how you can connect with your body, connect with the alignment. Once you have the tools to understand what that is, which is what I teach, you don't have to think about, only doing a daily walk, only doing a gym workout, or only doing an exercise class. But it's, as you say, all the bits in between, which we all have time for, all of us, because we have to get up, we have to climb stairs, we have to get into the car, we have to stand, prepare food. And it's all those bits, as our ancestors show us, that if we did them more efficiently, we would be using our body in the way it's designed to be used. And that's how you can build strength, flexibility, fitness in a way that's a lot more intuitive, once you understand how to connect with your body.
I think as we age, particularly, for me, I exercise not to be the fittest person in the world. I do it so that as I age, I can be fit, I'm strong and flexible, so that I can carry the bags of shopping in and I can get myself off the loo and all those sorts of things, which are really, really vital for your quality of life. And what I love about this so much is that, as you say, it is easy in the sense that you don't have to make time for it. It's just something which fits in so easily into your life. And who doesn't want to have all that strength and flexibility going forward? And I think so many of us think that going and doing a gym workout, myself included, for, you know, a very long time, is the answer for that strength and flexibility. And okay, yes, it can increase your strength, but actually so many people I know who go and do these workouts have constant niggles, like myself, constant niggles. So it is a whole massive reframe, really, in the way that we think. So how can we get people to reframe and get thinking in a different way? A very quick break to ask you to hit the follow or subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you're enjoying this episode, I'd be super grateful if you could hit those stars and rate it too. Thank you.
There are several points with that. Using your body in a way that feels that you are at your absolute outer limit of stamina, endurance, and cardiovascular stimulus, for some people is exactly what they need. And I am by no means saying that that isn't the right thing to do, because if that was the case, we would not have top class athletes and dancers doing what they do. And some people have gone into, you know, much maturer years and they're still doing it. There is definitely a place for it. But the point that my work is about is that it isn't a one size fits all. The size that fits is the size that is right for you when you understand and learn how to be able to connect with your own body. And it's also about shaking up assumptions about what exercise is. And as you made the point, it's not about being the fittest, strongest person you can be. If that is what you want, of course, go for it. But it doesn't mean that you have to be thrashing around and doing boot camp classes if that doesn't feel what's right for you. And I think that's what I have come across with people who have gone through my Simply Move program and come out the other end and thought, oh, thank goodness for that. There are other ways of viewing how you see your body. And even in the media, you see, you know, fabulous looking women, men who look as fit as anything. And then people look at their own body and think, well, my tummy doesn't look like that. My thighs, my bum, my boobs, they don't look like that. You know, I've reached that stage in my life. And if that's what I'm supposed to be aspiring to, they feel deflated before they've even begun. And you start to lose confidence in what you're capable of doing. So the way to answer your question, well, how do we get people rethinking? They have to be open to recognizing that there is another way of connecting with themselves. And if what you're looking for is just a tick box exercise, then, you know, that suits those people. But those people who think, I want to know that my older body, especially if you're going through the perimenopause and the menopause, or you've come out of the other side and you think this body doesn't feel the same as it did when I was in my 30s.
Yeah.
And knowing that there is hope, because there is hope, that if you reframe what exercise is and you think of it more as movement and connecting with yourself as you live your life, in addition to doing specific, you were saying about your back and your knees and so on. Yes, there is a place for doing specific movements and strengthening exercises and activities for painful joints, but it isn't about punishing your body. It's working with your mind and body and it feeling right for you. So it's getting the balance, I would say, to answer your question. How do we get people to do that or see it as that?
Yeah, and as you say, particularly as we go through perimenopause and menopause, when our bodies, are we're not feeling. Lots of people really aren't feeling like they've got the energy or the inclination to go and exercise anyway. That actually finding
Yeah.
a different way, which is in tune with what they're feeling right now, is super important. Because otherwise, I think what happens, well, actually, I know what happens because there's stats out there to prove it. So many women just stop moving altogether because they don't feel there's an option for them.
Yeah.
Whereas something like this, what you're teaching in Simply Move, actually shows them that there is another way, which is about listening and being intuitive, which is so important. When you say moving intuitively, can you explain what you mean by that?
Yes, that is a lovely question. So by intuitive, if we bring that, what you were just saying there about perimenopause and menopause, when we, often we just stop or we just keep punishing ourselves because we think that's the only option. Yeah. Both of those things we know aren't right. But we think, well, what else do I do? I'll stop because if I keep going, I'm just going to hurt more and more. Or the other extreme, I'm just going to keep going because I cannot not exercise because I know I'm going to get weaker, stiffer, or I'll lose fitness. Neither of those are intuitive in that they don't feel right. You know they're not right, but you sense the alternative is so limited that that's what you're left with. Whereas where I'm coming from with moving and connecting with your body intuitively, once you have learnt the tools that you need to be able to stand in a way that moves your body efficiently because you're holding your joints in place, using your muscles as they're designed to be used and fired up. Once you learn that, it isn't just about, well, stand straight then. Because a lot of people, if you're used to sitting or you're used to standing in a certain way, or you're carrying an injury or a pain or a niggle, you won't stand in the most efficient way. You'll stand in a way that is familiar. And just because it's familiar doesn't make it normal. It certainly doesn't make it efficient. It just makes it what you're used to doing. So when you take back all those layers of habitual movements, and then you recognize how your body can feel by moving it in a different way, holding it in a different way, breathing more efficiently, more effectively, you then start to tune in with thinking, that feels right. That feels what my body wants. It's what my body needs for me, not only now to live the life I want, but to actually get back to doing some of the things that you've given up hope of ever doing, because you keep repeating in those habitual ways that are unhelpful, unhealthy movements. So that's what I mean by intuitive. It's not just, oh, Polly, sit like that and it will be intuitive. Well, no, it won't be, because you've lost that connection with what it is to be human. Even though when our ancestors were living, they weren't thinking, oh, yes, I'm living like a real human. It was just part of who they are. And I believe that by teaching people, giving them the tools they need to reframe how their body can be held and move, once people are in tune with that, it's that becomes an intuitive response. So if you are going to an exercise class, because that's what you want to do, you think, I'm not sure I like what the teacher's asking me to do. But if I do it in the way that I have now learned through Rachel's Simply Move program, I can still do the movement, but I'm doing it in a way that is far more intuitive. I can feel the muscles engaging that I need to be engaging. I can feel that how I've stacked my joints one on top of the other is right. It feels powerful. It feels controlled. That's what I mean by intuitive. And it's an incredibly powerful gift to yourself once you gain it, because once you start losing that essence of what feels right for you, you can think, I'm going to stop. This doesn't feel right.
It sounds like it's when you're in that, which I've achieved very few times in my life, but it sounds like when you're in that flow state where everything just is moving in a way that, yes, just feels incredible and you're not pushing and straining. And I can imagine that it must be amazing. How long though would it take someone who, because as you say, we're habitually used to moving in a particular way for so long. So you have to unlearn all of those bad habits and retrain yourself. And I must admit, how long would you say it takes? Because I've started doing some of the things which I've learned through your Simply Move program. And I sometimes do kind of have to catch myself and going, oh God, I'm standing like that again, or I'm doing that. And it is a constant, isn't it?
Yeah.
When's it going to feel normal?
Okay. There's lots in that, Polly. So the reason you find it, as do I, so hard is because we are living in a world that essentially is stacked against us, living the most human life we are designed to live, because we're so movement deprived. And if you know that you spend large chunks of your time sitting, as an example, because that is the world we're in, or staring at a device so you're slightly offset, even if it's a phone, even if you've got your workstation set up beautifully and everything's neatly aligned, we're still doing something that we weren't designed to do. And therefore, it is a constant. And people will say, oh, when will it just be automatic that I'll just discover that that's what I'm doing? And I think that is less likely. What is far more likely, and what I find for my own body, is the prompt is that I think, Rach, straighten up, because at my standing desk where I am now, I tend to tilt off to my left. And it's not that I beat myself up because, oh, I'm not standing properly. Even me, imagine that. The prompt is that I think, oh, I remember I need to straighten up to my full height, even weight over my feet, weight more towards the front half of my feet, my knees soft, lengthen up, blah, 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 all the key principles of the program. So it isn't that it just becomes automatic. What becomes automatic is that I remember to tune in. And to answer your question, well, how long does that take? It really depends on whether you're carrying injuries, whether you are particularly stiff, or you have other health issues that you're carrying along at the same time. So if somebody is thinking, right, I really want to sign up for Rachel's Simply Move program, but they know they've got lots of problems, I would say, well, maybe you need a one-to-one either with me or fellow physiotherapist or whoever your practitioner would be, so that you can really get to the bottom of it. But for a lot of people, it is simply understanding how they can sit more efficiently, how they can stand up more efficiently, how they can bend down to the floor more efficiently. And that's what's in the program. So it isn't well, after so many weeks, so many months, you'll have it. As you said, I know you were laughing, but it is a constant. But that's because the world we live in is structured for us not to move. And that is the one thing that we are designed to do for not just our physical strength and flexibility and fitness levels, but for all our internal organs. You know, if we're not moving properly, the way our digestive system works, the way our heart and lungs work, the way our brains work, is compromised if we're not moving in the way we're designed to. I don't want that to sound like a negative.
But Rachel, the thing is with anything now, and what I talk to, the people I work with about in terms of helping themselves through perimenopause, menopause, and helping them to age well, it is forever. It's a lifestyle. It's not nothing's a quick fix. So everything is forever. If you want to live in a certain way and you want to be as healthy and move freely as possible, it is forever. And that is just the reality. So it's about finding ways that you can integrate it into your life.
Exactly.
Which makes it easy and sustainable, because otherwise we're never gonna do it. When you were talking there, it just made me realize of something I bang on a lot about always. It's about self-awareness. I talk about self-awareness in everything, but what you're saying as well, it's if you have that self-awareness with how you're, exactly as you said, with how you're sitting, how you're standing, then you are able to make those corrections. And I talk about it a lot with your thoughts. If we're aware of what we're thinking to ourselves, then we can catch them and we can stop them before they start to downward spiral. So it's building that sort of awareness muscle within ourselves. If we keep doing that, then we are living in the moment much, much more, and we can actually, live in that way.
So your point there about, your thoughts inside your head, people I have found have come to me and said, yes, but that's about the brain. That's about my thoughts. You're about the body. And no, I'm not. I'm about the whole self. And until you give your brain the headspace it needs to be able to connect with your body so that your body can then be processed with your thoughts, there is a glass ceiling that you're going to reach, and you'll never get beyond it, because you want to be able to have that sense of awareness, as you were saying, about what's going on with your thoughts and your thinking and your actions. The way you connect with your body is exactly the same. And, you know, there are other philosophies in the world that do connect mind and body all the time.
Well, yoga is a big one of them. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's right. And people think, oh, you're a physiotherapist. You know, if you've got a hurty bit, you push the hurty bit, make the hurty bit hurt more. And I think, no, that's not, I'm not that type of physiotherapist. To me, as you say, I'm so much, it's so much broader than that, because it is about connecting with how human evolution shows us that we can flourish and thrive whatever is going on around us, and connecting our thoughts with our body, so our body and our thoughts become much more in tune, makes things a whole lot easier. And using your breath to do that, and I know you do that with your practice too, is giving yourself those moments of stillness and those moments of calm for your thoughts to be processed more readily. But it's the same for your body. So it's when you see it like that, you can think, oh, well, I could do that when I'm doing my mindfulness practice or whatever it might be.
Yeah, no, it's so good. I really love it. Thank you. I know, exactly. It's so good. So, Rachel, because you're now in your 50s, so obviously you have experienced perimenopause and all of that lovely stuff which happens to us all. How's it been for you? What tools and techniques have you found have been useful? And I'm presuming that your Simply Move program has been really beneficial as well.
Yeah. Well, in fact, the Simply Move program I had professionally filmed with all the key principles of what we've just been talking about, having gone through the menopause, interestingly. So I was pulling together all sorts of things that I discovered, not only, you know, having researched my topic, but also from my own personal experience and meeting women who, you know, when I would say something, go, yes, my gosh, nobody's ever framed it in that way. Mine was quite complicated in that I had my youngest child when I was 41. And I think I went quite quickly into the perimenopause. But because I had my last child later in life, people would just assume, oh, that's just because you got a baby. You know, the fact that you're so stressed and you're so tired and you feel so stiff and your body doesn't feel like it's yours. And I was thinking, well, maybe, but it feels more than that. And it was very, very muddy, the waters. And so I just accepted it, because why would I think anything else when professionals were saying that to me? But as I went through to my, mid to late 40s, and my stress levels were just at an all-time high, one day a GP friend of mine said, you do realize that you could be actually in the perimenopause. And I was thinking, oh, perimenopause? I don't even know what that is. You know what that is. I had no reason to think that in terms of physical symptoms, in terms of my periods and so on. So I didn't really understand that. So I began to look into it, and I began to ask my patients, I'd say, given your age, are you aware of the fact that you could be hurting in the way you are, feeling so low in your energy and so discouraged about your body, how it looks, how it feels, because you are actually transitioning through the perimenopause to the menopause? And I would say most of the women that I asked, they'd go, I had no idea the two were connected. And to me, that's a shock, a big shock. It was a shock when my friend said to me, do you think you might be perimenopause? I was like, oh, So obviously I immediately wanted to look it up and found so much more about it. And now I'm 55, I would say I'm moving, out of it now, out of the menopause completely. But once I started asking women how it was relating to their fitness levels, their pain levels, their stiffness levels, and I started to help them see that ability to tune into themselves, peel back all those assumptions about what exercise should be, what physiotherapy should be, what overcoming pain should look like. I started to see that my Simply Move concept was more important than ever, not only to them, but to myself. And also, you mentioned bone density earlier, and people think that, that the only way to improve their bone density is to be doing really vigorous stuff, load bearing on their legs. And I was thinking, well, I'm not sure that is actually the case when that is beyond what your body feels it's capable of doing. So again, it's recognizing where your body is at, where you want it to be, obstacles that are in the way by, virtue of the fact that your density drops, your energy levels drop, and how you can bring that all together in thinking about your body as a whole. So I would say that having been through it myself, that has helped me relate, not to everybody, because of course my experience is my own, but simply to ask the question about, have you considered that this actually, being perimenopausal or menopausal, is contributing not necessarily to your symptoms in the first place, but actually in making them worse and making it harder to just think, well, I'll just get a bit fitter, I'll just make myself a bit stronger, because it's limiting, because people don't realize how disconnected they are from how they can move to thrive, because they are sitting so much of the time, they're not standing to their full height, so they've lost that connection as well.
I mean, that was me as well. I mean, I was again in my early 40s, and I totally like you. Everything was hurting. There was so many things going on, but I just carried on training quite hard.
Yeah,
I was doing quite a lot of running because I thought I could kind of work my way out of it. And actually, when I look back now, I was like, God, I was in so much pain. What was I doing? But I didn't know any better. Yes. I just didn't know what was happening. I just couldn't believe that I felt like 110 when I was really in my early 40s. And actually now, I mean, hopefully this is a reason I'm doing this podcast, and there's so much now out there in the media of people becoming much, much more aware of perimenopause and what some of those symptoms are, and one of them being aches and pains and joint pain, etc.
Yeah.
That actually, hopefully now people go, actually, I need to, as you say, become more in tune with what is going on and do the exercises that work for me. I mean, I'm just thinking there is though a big narrative, because I've had people on as guests on the podcast who say that through perimenopause into menopause, one of the most important things we should do is weight bearing exercise. Yeah. And weight and lifting weights. But I think from what you're saying, that's okay, we can do that, but at the same time it's still super important to listen in to what is going on. And if your body doesn't feel like it's able to do that, then actually there are other ways, much more gentler ways that you can move.
Yes, absolutely. But I would also say that today people's limitations are more related to loss of strength than they are loss of flexibility, because we just sit. So even though we might do a bit of stretching to help maintain muscle flexibility and joint openness, our strength is what is severely limited. And if you lose strength, that is directly going to impact on your bone density. So I would say, yes, you do need to strengthen. And I'm not saying that all the answers lie in simply just doing a little bit more movement and all will be well. We do need to build strength, but you need to do it in a way that is specific to your own body. You make sure that the alignment of your body is correct first, because if you're not holding your body in the way it's meant to be held, you will not build effective strength. In fact, what you'll do is load the joints even more, and that might be fine for a while. Your body might accommodate that, but if you keep doing it, that's when you can end up picking up injuries. So if people listening today have thought, well, yes, I have been working on my strength. I am taking weights in my hands and doing things overhead, or I'm on my hands and knees, working the bone density, the muscle strength in my arms, as well as my legs when I'm on my feet, but it's not working. That may be at the root of it, that it isn't just that you shouldn't be strength training with that degree of weight, but it's the way in which you carry out the movement with the weight or the resistance in your hands that's actually causing the problems. So if you've had people on here and they've been talking about strength training in the menopause, I would absolutely agree with that. All I'm saying is, yeah, but that's like saying all exercise is the same and all exercise suits all bodies. And that's the key. It's what is right for your body and what feels a natural thing for you to be doing, as opposed to thinking, oh, I do that because that's what I think I should be doing. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to dispel.
So there's obviously the strength part. Would you say that if someone is doing the strength part, but they're still kind of feeling lots of niggles, that actually it's the flexibility part that they probably need to work much more on?
Yeah, definitely. Because if you have limited muscle length, which is what creates the shortening and the stiffness then in your joints, if you strengthen on a body that is already tight and stiff, all you're doing is actually encouraging that stiffness, because the more you strengthen a muscle, it will shorten if you're not actively stretching it out in line with what you're doing to strengthen it. The two go side by side. But if you know you are really tight, I would work on flexibility more in the first instance than I would with strength. But to reference what I was just saying about strength, I would say that a huge number of people are losing strength quicker than they're losing flexibility. But if inflexibility is your problem, you need to address that before you start strength training.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So it's unraveling what your body is limited by and knowing that. And if people are thinking, listening to this, well, I just don't know, then you need to have a conversation with somebody so that you do know. And then once you can see what you're dealing with, then it's much easier to see, is my Simply Move my Simply Move program right for that particular individual, or do they need one-to-one first to ascertain and then know how to use the program, or whatever program they are choosing that suits them.
Yeah, because I was just thinking about people listening and what their questions would be, because I always try and ask my questions from a point of view from the people who are listening.
Absolutely.
But I'm kind of thinking there's probably two camps here. There's the people who know that they need to maybe do some more movement to build their flexibility and strength. And then you've probably got the others who are training really, really hard and actually their bodies are really stiff and niggly. So I suppose it's for both camps. And I'm thinking what the answer would be. It'd be to really, as everything you said, tune into their bodies and work out what it is you would benefit it most. Is that the right advice?
Yeah, no, I love the idea of the two camps, because obviously you know who your listeners are and you know what feedback you've received from them. And not all problems, and I would say for the vast majority of people, not all problems require detailed assessment with, professional one-to-one care. Of course, there's a place for that. I mean, that is my bread and butter work. But the reason the Simply Move program works is because once people can recognize what they're doing to their own body, it's literally like I'm holding up a mirror and they're going, oh my gosh, I had no idea that's what I'm doing over and over again, or what I'm not doing and missing out all the time. So if you have somebody who feels that, their fitness levels are good, their strength levels are good, but they still, as you say, get niggles and aches and pains, once they recognize how they're moving and they think, oh, I can do it a different way, all that strength training and fitness then becomes much more in tune with where they are aiming for, whatever activities, whatever lifestyle they want. They can achieve it much more easily. And then you have the other people who are fearful of moving and aren't wanting to try things or go to an exercise class for fear of doing the wrong thing and making their body hurt or fatigue even more. It's ideally suited to them as well, because they can watch me, listen to me, read the notes that accompany the program before they even dip a toe in. And as you have seen yourself when you've watched it, you can pause it. You can pause it at any point, repeat it as many times, and keep practicing and copying what I'm doing so that you can begin to feel what it is that I'm explaining. So it works on both sides. And I don't want people to think, oh my gosh, I should rush to get an appointment with somebody and sort my body out. So many problems, if you simply understand how to align, how to breathe while you move, can address so many of our aches and pains, our stiffnesses, and the challenges that we have and we need to cope with.
Amazing advice. To finish, Rachel, I always ask my guests the same question, which is, because this is called the Positive Perimenopause Podcast, have you got just one, because I like to give the listeners one practical, actionable tip, which they can kind of take away with today to put into practice, one tip which would help them have a positive perimenopause? Sorry, I've put you on the spot there.
You have put me on the spot, but I can immediately think of one, and I would say that one tip would be to stand up. In fact, I'm going to do it. Well, you could do it with me, Polly.
Okay, I'm doing it.
So you stand up and you just notice where your weight is under the soles of your feet. So you want your weight slightly more towards the front half of your foot, so you're not heavy on your heels, knees soft. And just take your arms into the air, just so that you feel comfortable, not forcing the movement. Soften your shoulders and breathe out as you keep your arms up and your spine long, your knees soft. And then bring your arms down and then take a breath in. And as you breathe out, lengthen up through the back of your head, keeping your knees soft and your shoulders nice and open. And that would be my tip, because you can, even though we did it in standing, you can do it in sitting. And the reason I chose that is, in a perimenopausal state, we don't breathe out enough. We breathe in and we hold that in breath. So breathing out, taking your arms up and softening your shoulders, you are undoing what a Western modern life is loading on top of us, which stops us from feeling connected with ourselves and moving more freely with flow and connectedness. So that would be my gift.
Thank you so much. And do you know what? That is probably the most practical one I've had to date. So thank you for that. I love that. So Rachel, for those people who are going, yes, I absolutely must go and find out more about Rachel, I must go and sign up to Simply Move, where can they go to find you?
They can come and find me on my website, which is rachelkiliphysiotherapy.com. And that's Rachel Kili, Kili, which is a bit funny spelling. And if they go onto my website, they will see Simply Move online, and they can go and find out testimonials, what people have thought of the program. There are videos that are there, so you can get a flavour of what the program's about, and lots of information about what it is, so that people can see if that's something that is going to work for them.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure having you on the podcast, and you've got such a wealth of knowledge, and I am definitely going to keep reminding myself to stand in a particular, the way you suggest, and sit in the way you suggest. It's definitely something which I think is so valuable for so many people. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Polly. It's been lovely sharing it with you.
Oh, thank you. It was so nice speaking to my cousin Rachel, and I highly recommend checking out her Simply Move program if you have any niggles which are reoccurring or aches and pains and want to learn how to sit properly, how to stand properly, how to move in a way that feels good. Or if you don't have the aches and pains, but actually you want to know the best way to move so that you can avoid them for the future. So I would really go and check out her Simply Move program and her website. And remember, if you would like to benefit from a £25 off discount for my Peri Power Hour and a half offer I have got going on at the moment, please do get in touch. Thank you so much for listening. As always, I am so grateful. I know how busy you all are, and it just means the absolute world that you are here listening to these episodes. And as always, if you feel that this episode would benefit somebody else, please feel free to share it with them. And if you feel so inclined, come and leave me a review over on Apple Podcasts, because it really, really does help get this podcast out there. Thank you so, so much. And I really can't wait to talk to you next time. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. Bye.